Today we're going to talk about cable, or pound versus the dollar. Now this really has been such a main focal point for me for quite some time now, and there's an obvious reason why when we're looking at the two major macroeconomic stories in the world right now. It's quite clear that there's the US-China trade talks and everything that's involved in that, and really you could even argue everything that involves the President Donald Trump, whether that be the government shutdown or anything else for that matter, the leaning on the Fed being obviously another one that's been quite a key focus over the last couple of years really. And then from the UK side, the part that impacts the pound, we have Brexit. Now again, this is a thing that's been talked about a lot over the last couple of years, and for anyone outside the UK, you may have been able to switch off to it at times, but unfortunately we haven't been quite so lucky here. We've been very much having to follow every little detail along the way. The positive with that, though, means that we are now nearing the end, and the closer we get to the end, the more volatile we may see the pound become. So I think this is a pair that has the great potential to see some quite significant moves over the next couple of months. And we have seen that kind of weigh in already into these charts. We've seen a lot of volatility and a lot of sensitivity to various political changes. And right now we are seeing one unfold in the UK, which I do think is quite clearly having an impact. At this moment in time, Theresa May is back in Brussels. She is trying to renegotiate the most controversial aspect of the Brexit agreement, the withdrawal agreement known as the backstop. This is what is put in place to avoid a hard border being put up between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland in order to preserve the Good Friday Agreement and stop any conflict arising there once again. Now, those within her party and those more on the hardline side of the Brexiteers, they want to remove the backstop and replace it with alternative arrangements which will achieve the same goal without potentially tying the UK to the EU without a say in how the relationship effectively moves forward for an indefinite period of time. Now, what we're actually seeing right now is the clock is ticking. And the clock's ticking down fast. We're very close now to exit day, and the two sides haven't reached an agreement which Theresa May can get through Parliament. And Theresa May, like now others, are being accused of letting the clock tick down. But it's interesting that what we're seeing a little bit of appetite come back for the pound right now, and I think there's probably a couple of drivers. There's the primary driver, which is I think people now are sensing that we could be getting towards something that the EU and the UK can agree on, but also something that can get through Parliament, even if that means coming right at the end of March. And also people are pointing to what we're seeing currently in Parliament, which is different people from within the two major parties, Labour and the Conservatives, actually breaking away because they want a second referendum. Now, we're still in the very early stages of this, and I don't see this as a very real risk, even if we are seeing potentially some movements in the currency on the back of these various resignations. But if those numbers continue to grow, and therefore the backing for a second referendum rises as well, then I think that could have the potential to benefit the pound, because this is the one route to potentially still remaining within the UK, which is the best in the best near-term economic interest of the UK economy, and therefore in the best interest of the pound, because that removes the risk. So what this means for the chart ultimately is that we're trading around these kind of 130 levels. That 130 for me represents indecision. That represents a lot of still remaining uncertainty. To the top side, we've got 133, and I think a breakthrough here could represent a deal either being achieved or a high probability of a deal passing through Parliament. To the downside, we've got these kind of 127s, 128s where we hung up previously. That around the 50 and 61.8 Fibonacci retracement levels, which still indicates that any retracement we've had over the last month is just that. Rather than more pessimism, it's actually a retracement. The fact that we're still remaining around these higher levels, I think really does reflect people's view that no deal is becoming increasingly less of a possibility. And I think that's a bullish factor for the pound. And what this ultimately means is that we are seeing a positive sentiment feed into these negotiations, and a belief amongst traders that a positive outcome is pending.